3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome, one and all, to Monday Night Nerd. Folks, it is so good to be back. It is so good to be back here in the cave. Welcome to Monday Night Nerd. My name is Corp Cosplay. If you don't know me, I am a cosplayer from Ontario, Canada. This is my show, Monday Night Nerd, where we talk about nerdy things. We talk about comics, we talk about movies, we talk about cosplay, everything else, wrestling, tons of stuff. And today we're going to be talking about single issues versus trade paperbacks. What's the better way to read your comics? Do you like one or the other? We're going to talk about the benefits. We're going to talk about the cost. We're going to talk about all things comics tonight. It is so good to be back. It is so good to be back because if you are new to the show, I just came back from vacation. I was on vacation for 2 weeks, so we had 2 tape shows. This is the first time I've been back in 2 weeks. Live. Live. And I'm so happy you're all here. I'm going to do one thing. I'm just going to click on Instagram Live because I want to see if we can get a few more people who are usually on Instagram and are not normally watching the show. We're going to try this out and see if we can, if some more people can watch. Folks, if you're tuning in right now, this is Monday Night Nerd. This is the Instagram Live version. We're going to try this out, see if you want to watch this at a better quality and see all the extra stuff I'm going to be doing. YouTube, Monday Night Nerd, and check out the show. That's where I'm going to be. Right now, this is just, I want you guys to see it. So YouTube, Corp Cosplay, Monday Night Nerd, hop on, because I'm going to show you some pictures from my vacation. And I'm going to show you some nerdy stuff because there was some pretty cool nerdy stuff while I was on vacation. Folks, let's talk about my vacation for a quick minute. I don't want to take up too much time because I know you guys are here for nerd and cost and all that fun stuff. My trip was not nerdy, but there were some nerdy things. Where did I go? I went to Italy and Greece. That's where I went. I went with my wife. We went on a cruise. It was a lot of fun. I went to Rome. Was where our first destination was. We went to the Vatican. We were like, no joke, we were about a stone's throw from Vatican City. It was so cool. I'm not really the religious person, but it was really cool being there. It was really cool seeing all the historical monuments. Lots of walking. I think we counted over 30,000 steps in that one day alone. We had a lot of fun there. We were there for 2 days before we got on the ship to go on the cruise. After that, we took the first port we went to was Santorini, Greece. If you don't know what Santorini, Greece is, that's the one where all the celebrities like to go. They've got the white roofs and all that stuff. That was Santorini. It was a lot of fun there. It was a little more touristy than I would have liked, but we still had a pretty good time there. Next, after that, we went to Athens. Athens, Greece was my favorite personally. I really loved Athens. We had so much history there, so much culture there. It was really cool seeing all the architecture. We didn't go in too deep into the historical stuff. The lines were insane. We didn't buy tickets in advance. It was fine. We still got to enjoy the city. The best part of Athens, I picked up a new pair of Adidas for 40 euros, which works out to like 50 some odd for Canada. It was great. After that, we picked up some of the best tacos I've ever had. I've never had better tacos than in Athens. They were ripped up chicken with pico de gallo, feta cheese, Parmesan. Oh, they were incredible. But Athens was probably my favorite. I hope to go back there in the future. Also, we went to then Corfu, Greece. Corfu was more of a small town. If you're from the Ontario area, think Niagara on the Lake. It was kind of like that. So Niagara on the Lake style. Picked up a little bit of things. Went to an old fort there. Did some walking there. As we were leaving, we got to see the Olympic flame, which was pretty cool. They were doing a big ceremony in the middle of one of the big parks there, just where the bus was picking us up and dropping us off. So we got to see Olympic flame, which was pretty cool. Then we went to Valletta, Malta. Malta's a little country in between Italy and Greece. Lot of fun there. A lot of walking. I think we probably counted 20 to 30,000 steps a day. It was just so much walking. I'm so glad I had a good pair of shoes. We went to a chocolate shop, which was really cool. In the chocolate shop, we went to, you could just get like literally a cup of liquid chocolate with a fork. Like that was pretty cool. I didn't get it, but I saw a lot of people just loving it. We did bring some chocolate home. That was really cool. Then we went to Messina, Italy. Messina, Italy that was probably one of my favorites. Messina was a big city, but very laid back. They had really cool thing there. In like every other street, they had sort of a little area to walk into, and it was probably the size of a big. It was a big bathroom, and what was in there was they had like all these vending machines. So they had like a energy drink vending machine, they had like a chip vending machine, they had a coffee vending machine, they had a dirty toy vending machine, which was funny to see. We also found a comic book shop there, which was really cool. I wanted to pick up some stuff, but everything was in Italian, so I couldn't really read it. They had some really cool statues there. My wife picked up some Pokemon. There was a couple bigger statues there, but I knew I did not have the luggage to bring it home. But it was still really cool seeing them there talking about comics. Then we went to Naples, which also included Pompeii. We went to Pompeii, Italy, which was, oh my God, it was so cool. I really wasn't expecting Pompeii to be that good. I was honestly thinking I didn't want to go because it was like, I don't know, I just felt weird being around, a big travesty. But it was honestly really, really cool. We had a private tour we paid for. The best pizza I've ever had was in Naples. Just a margarita pizza. I could have killed the thing. Unfortunately, I was too full and I couldn't bring it on the ship. I was really frustrated about that, but what are you going to do? We'll just have to go back. And last but not least, we went to Florence, Italy. Sadly, by that point, we were starting to get a cold. One of the people who we also knew on the ship through a family friend was ill, and unfortunately she got the rest of us sick. So by the end, we were all starting to get a cold. By the next day, which was our flight day, we were supposed to fly straight home. We ended up flying to Portugal first and then home, and it was a whole day of just flying in pressurized cabins with a head cold, which was not fun, but it works out to a really fun story, so I'm okay with it. Overall, I had a blast. It was really fun. I hope to go back again. I'm glad to be home. We were both really happy to be home, but it was really nice to see the world. We hope to go back in the next couple years. My wife is going to be doing some traveling next year. I'm going to be doing more cosplay next year. In 2020, during the pandemic, I put out a goal that I wanted to be a guest at Fan Expo by 2025. Next year's that anniversary, so I want to do my best to take the time off that I can get from work and put it into building and doing photo shoots and all that stuff. So that is my goal for next year. So I will not be traveling as much next year, but the year after that, I'll probably be going somewhere in the world. But yeah, that in the short, that was my vacation. It was a really, really fun time. I want to show you guys some nerdy pictures because even though I was almost halfway across the world, there were some nerdy things. And even on the first moment we got to the ship, there was some nerdy stuff. If you saw my Instagram, you saw some of them, but there are some that I didn't post. First off, this was a tugboat that was right next to our ship when we first got on the ship, a Superman tugboat, which was super cool. On the other side is more of the, I want to say 60s, 70s look of Superman. This is the 90s version. I love this. I wanted to I don't know. I thought everything on the ship was going to be Superman. So I was kind of like, I want to go on that ship because it looks really cool. But yeah, seeing something nerdy that far away from home was making me feel comfortable. Not that I wasn't comfortable, but you know what I mean. Next thing, there were some watches on the ship, and this is one of their DC ones, the Aquaman Invicta watch. So the minute hand and the hour hand is the trident, which is so cool. I really like the green in the background and the symbol in the middle. They had many other Marvel and DC ones there. There was Spider-Man, there was Black Panther, there's Batman, obviously. There were Star Wars ones as well. But the one that I wanted was this one. I really wanted this Thanos Infinity Gauntlet watch. I thought this was so cool. Having his face on the side, having the fist there, and having the stones around the outside was such a dope look. Unfortunately, it was like $1,300 for these watches each. Way out of my price range. I'm also not a watch guy, so it would really only be special occasions. Doesn't mean it's not a dope watch, but yeah, there's no way I was going to pay that price. I think there was one day when they're like, everything is on sale, and these were like 10 to 20% off. And I'm like, even that's still over $1,000. So that was not going to be bought, but I still think it's a cool watch. What else happened? We got some other cool shots here. Seeing this on the back of a tour bus in Athens was pretty cool. As a Rammstein fan, that was cool. And part of me is like, I really wish I could be here on the 30th of May so I could see them live. Yeah, I kind of marked out a little bit seeing that come across my path. It isn't a tour bus or anything. It's literally just the pick up and go bus for the city. But seeing a band like Rammstein right there in the open is not something you'd probably see here in Canada or the US. This was on the boat, the Guitar Hero arcade machine. There was an arcade on the boat for the kids. There was Terminator Salvation, Jurassic Park, and a couple other ones. I will admit I did play a couple rounds of Guitar Hero on one of the days that we were on sea. It was like $2, $2.20 or something. It's right there. I think it's like $2.30, $2.20 to play. So I didn't want to spend like $20 playing 10 songs, but it was still a lot of fun. It worked well, which I've played the Guitar Hero arcade in the past, and there have been issues because so many people play with the instruments that they kind of either the buttons don't work or the meter doesn't work when you flick the guitar up. But this worked really well, and I was very happy with that. So yeah, I played the Joe Satriani, Surfing with the Alien, and Cliffs of Dover, which are two of my favorite songs from Guitar Hero. I didn't know that this is not. I thought this was just Guitar Hero 3 because that's basically the characters and the screens and everything. You can actually download other songs to this game. Like you can download songs from 4 or 5 onto this machine. I wasn't aware of that. So that's really cool because there was a couple songs on there that were DLC that I know were not in the original Guitar Hero 3. So that was kind of cool to see. And yes, I did have a couple rounds on it. Energy drinks there. So if you know, I'm a Zoa fan. I drink Monster every once in a while, but Zoa was one of the ones that I usually drink. Hell energy drink was something that caught my eye. I guess this is a boxing team there in Italy. I like Red Bull. I hate Red Bull, so I didn't really drink too much of it. There was a green apple one that my wife got. She really did enjoy that one, but yeah, Hell energy drink was it caught my eye that this would not fly at back in the States and in North America. This is a cute little curtain that we saw in Corfu. Just walking by, looking up in one of the windows and seeing that there are some Pac-Man fans over here in Europe as well. And below that was also the Alice in Wonderland doorknob, which I thought was really, really adorable. This actually caught my eye first, and then as I was looking up, I caught the Pac-Man curtains. But yeah, that was a nice little Disney Easter egg for all the Disney fans out there. This is another one that we saw, another energy drink that my wife got, a juiced bad apple. I've never seen this can before, a rather seductive can, let's call it. But it was good from what my wife said. Again, I'm not an Apple fan, but she thought it was cool. I just really like the look of the can. This is actually in one of the one of those little vending machine areas I talked about earlier. And that's kind of it. Those are really the nerdy things that that I ran into. Like I said, other than that, it was a great time going across the country and seeing a culture outside of mine. I highly recommend, if you have ever had the idea or the thought to go see another country, if you want to explore the world, please do it. You know, I grew up never really wanting to, never really having any inspiration to go. I kind of grew up not really traveling that much, except going to Florida twice when I was a kid. My wife is really the one who's the traveler, and I'm kind of, as I joked about it on the during the cruise, I'm sort of the donkey that sort of carries stuff and comes along. But it really was a lot of fun, and she's really made me go, like, it's really cool to see the outside world. I'm very much a homebody, but seeing cultures outside of mine, seeing different people, different ways that people live is really cool to me. And I'm really starting to enjoy traveling a lot more. So hopefully, not that it's going to stop me from cosplaying and enjoying the fun that I have here, I will hopefully be seeing more of the world in the future. That's all about my trip. I don't want to take up too much time, but I do have two last things to cover in the news before we jump into the main event. Folks, if you're still here, if you're watching here on YouTube or on Instagram Live, hop over to YouTube, Myers Corp Cosplay. You can check out the podcast live. You can see all the photos and stuff that we post on there and show. That way, you're not just seeing me from a weird angle. You can see me straight on. I can talk right to you. If you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It means so much to me that you do that. It shows me that you like this stuff and shows me that I should be doing more of this. Should be talking about comics, be talking about, you know, going on trips and stuff. It means a lot to me if you hit that like and subscribe button. Let's talk about a movie first, and then we're going to talk about the TV show that everybody in the nerd world is talking about. Last night, no, 2 nights ago, I watched a movie that I've been so excited about. I talked about it a couple weeks ago because the trailer had come out. Monkey Man. This was such a good movie. Monkey Man, Dave Patel, or Dav Patel, I can't remember how to pronounce it. He has been in Slumdog Millionaire and a few other movies. This is his directorial debut, and he knocked it out of the park. Now, this is a very Muslim, that style of movie, not Bollywood, but sort of that style. It is very much a fight movie. It's very much an action movie. There is blood at times. It is very, I think it's in English, but there's a very heavy accent. So if you have trouble with accents, it can be a little hard to understand what they're doing, but it's a pretty easy premise visually to keep up with. It was incredible. If you get a chance to see it, I know it's in theaters still. I was able to see it digitally. Go watch it. I know I heard it's coming out on streaming in the next month or two. Go check it out if you're a fight fan. The action in it is great. The cinematography in it is great. There are shots in this movie that I've never seen in an action movie. And that means that there's new ways to shoot action. There's new ways to shoot fights, and that makes me really happy that people are going to be taking this medium and making it even better for the years to come. Lastly, let's talk about the show that everyone was talking about, X-Men 97. I watched up until, when did I watch up till? I watched up until the infamous episode that I don't want to spoil, but everyone knows certain people who play with cards have a problem at the end. I watched up until that before I left for vacation. I went on vacation. When I came back, I watched the next 2 episodes. I know I'm one short. I think it was on the 1st it came out. I still have to watch that, and I know this week is a new episode. So far, so good. I'm really liking the story. I think when they start, again, I don't want to spoil too much because I know some people are waiting for the end. When certain characters who are only referenced at the beginning show up in a later episode, I feel like it's sort of let me back up. Let me do it this way. There are moments in the show where I feel lost until I get to the end of the episode, and then it all makes sense. So I do worry a little bit that there are going to be points in the series where people are going to be watching and they're going to go, I have no idea what's going on. I'm not wanting to, I don't want to continue. That's frustrating because it is such a good series. And I know if people just hold on and just enjoy the episode, and I know some of it might not make sense, it all makes sense in the end. Just stick with it. Kevin in chat says, no, woo more Nightcrawler. Yes, there needs to be more Nightcrawler, 100%. That is it for the news. Again, I don't want to spoil too much X-Men. I want everyone to enjoy it because I'm enjoying it. Sponsor, as always, folks, if you're new to the show, the sponsor is always my wife, my incredible, loving wife. I would not be the person I am without her. I would not be doing this. I would not have the cojones, the guts, whatever you want to call it, to be here in front of a camera talking to you guys about nerdy stuff for over a year now. She really makes me a better person, and I love you, hun. Thank you for always being my sponsor. And thank you for bringing me on vacation. That was really cool too. Let's jump into the main event. Let's jump into the main event of the evening. Let's talk about comics, folks. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about what's better, graphic novel or single issue. What's the difference? What's better? What's worse? Let's talk about it, because I mean, for those young kids in the world, if you're watching this and you just know the MCU started as this. The MCU started with these little things here. If these didn't exist, your MCU would not be what it is today. So let's talk about the difference. So single issues. We all have seen these single issues, whether you're at the convenience store, whether you're at the comic book shop, whether you're at a convention. Single issues, usually monthly, bi-monthly, depending on the series, etc. Usually when artists and writers get attached to a book, they're usually on for a certain amount of issues, and then another team comes in, things change, yada, yada, yada. Used to be cheap. I remember going to a Q&A with Stan Lee back when I first started going to expos, probably like 2010, and he mentioned that he loved single issues because single issues were very light. You can keep them in your backpack if you're a kid, and they were very cheap. This is the newest single issue I've purchased. I purchased this just before I left on vacation. This is Peter Parker, the Amazing Shutterbug, #1. The reason I picked this up is because I'm a big fan of the Kevin Smith podcast, Fat Man Beyond, and the co-host of that, Mark Bernardin, is the writer on this. So I wanted to see his writing. This story is very much about Peter Parker and his life outside of Spider-Man and him as a photographer. So I thought that'd be a really interesting story to read. So for the light side of it, as Stan Lee said, yes, they are light. The cost, however, this costs $4.99 US. It's a little pricey. It's a little pricier than what I remember. I remember these being $3.99 at the most. $5 US. We're getting a little out of my price range when it comes to regular buying, but we'll get more on that later. Graphic novels. Well, what are graphic novels? Well, graphic novels can come out anytime. Basically, what graphic novels are is a collection of these in some form. They might be one continuous story. It might be a collection of different things. So I have where is it? This one. Ultimate Spider-Man Venom. This is not just a certain collection. This is a bunch of different Ultimate Spider-Mans that have Venom included in it. So it's not just like a 1, 2, 3, 4. It might be a 1, 5, 9, 12. So it could be a compilation, or like this one, the Blackest Night series. It is a certain amount of issues. I believe this is this is Green Lantern 43 to 52, which is the main story of the Blackest Night series. These can, like I said, they can come out at any time. There are different versions of it. There are some books that are mainly known, I feel like, for the graphic novel and not for single issues. Prime examples would be The Watchmen. The Watchmen, the original book, is individual comics. I don't believe I've ever seen the initial 6 books, I believe 6 or 8 of The Watchmen. I've seen the first one, but I don't believe I've ever seen 5 or the other ones, just because of the I remember seeing the button on a cover. Books like, if you know, I grew up in the 2000s as a high school kid, and when I really started getting into comics, one of the first comics that really got me interested was Mouse, Maus, and this is one that has won many awards. And basically what it is the depiction of World War II and the Holocaust done as cats and mice, cats being the Germans and mice being the Jewish. It's a really good book that was just created as a graphic novel. I do not believe, don't quote me, but I do not believe they released that as a single issue book. So there are different books that come in different forms. Most of the big companies, your DCs, your Marvels, I know I did that reverse, your Marvels or DCs, have both. Usually you'll get your single issues, and then after a certain amount of time, they'll release a paperback, or you can get it in hardcover. So obviously price dependent. You're going to get cheaper with the single issues. You're going to get a little more expensive with the trade paperbacks, and then you're going to get a little more expensive with the hardcovers. So there's your options. I kind of count the hardcovers and trade paperbacks together as the same thing, because really it's just the binding's the only thing different. So what's better? You know, you have the option. You go to a comic book store, you see a shelf full of single issues, you see or long boxes almost, and then you've got your wall of paperbacks. What should you do? Well, let's look at the pros and cons. The pros of your single issues. So if you like things like episodic TV, you'll probably enjoy the single issues because, like I said, if they're new or if they're older and harder to find, you will get them periodically. You will not get them all at once. So there is that anticipation. We used to grow up in a world where you had to wait a certain amount of time for the next issue version or whatever of whatever you want to watch, whatever you want to read. It wasn't all at once. So to those who are used to that, that's a plus because it's something you grew up with. Second positive is collectability. This is where your value is going to come in. So with your single issues, specifically things like a number ones have extra value. Variant covers have extra value. Your first appearances have extra value. Even characters that aren't, big right now, they may have an MCU appearance in the future. They may have a Netflix special or something in the future. These things can all make the value pop up. A good example of that would be The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead issue 1 for the longest time was not that expensive. You could pick it up for pretty much the cover price, if not cheaper. But once the TV show kicked in, then the skyrocketing of the price went up. And then the popularity went up, and that made the price of the book even higher. So you have value if you want to buy certain issues. Accessibility. Like I said earlier, when it comes to the cost, single issues are cheaper. You've got your single issues, which again are now $5, but then you have some trade paperbacks going for a little more, probably about 20, and then your hardcovers can go almost 30 depending on how big you are. There are some, and I literally can't get it down because it's so big. You can get things like omnibuses, which are big books of either an entire run or a collection. My two big ones are, I have the Brightest Day omnibus, and I also have the Kiss Compendium. And the Kiss Compendium is literally a giant book of, up until that point, which I think was at the end of the Psycho Circus run, every Kiss comic ever written, all in one book. So if you're wanting to spend little money, you're going to have to go with a single issue. If you want to spend more, then you can definitely get bigger books. Community engagement is also a big thing. This goes back to somewhat of the serial experience, episodic experience. With the single issues, you do have that little bit of water cooler talk. You have a little bit of, everyone sitting together talking about an issue. Funny enough, my buddy Gavin is in the chat, and we were talking. Back in the day, we would all get together, him, myself, and Tom. We would go down to the comic book shop. We would all buy our favorite books. There's usually about 8 to 10 for us each. We'd come back, we'd grab some lunch, we'd all sit in my bedroom, and we'd all read books, and we'd all talk about what we read. And then we'd be so excited about what the next issue was and what's going to be the next comic, what's going to happen in this story. Is this guy going to be saved? Is this guy going to die? Like, all these things happen. It really brought the community together. And that was before this thing happened. This was before the internet was there, but like the community, the social media aspect was not what it is now. So you can go on forums, you can go on Reddits and talk about single issues and talk about all these crazy things that are happening, but you have to wait a little bit until the next issue came out. So it really brings that community together to talk about what could happen. And last, I would say, is supporting the industry. Single issues are a lot easier to make for almost any publisher. It really is, it's more specific for your small publishers, your indie publishers who can't afford to always make giant compendiums and trade paperbacks and omnibuses. The single issues will also show them the initial support for a book. If everybody is waiting for the trade paperbacks and no one's buying the single issues, well, they don't have really a radar sales-wise to know if it's worth them putting the time and the effort into printing these big, giant books that take up shelf space, take up printing costs, take up time, and take money to ship. So buying a single issue every now and then does show the support to the major publishers, but also the little publishers, show them the growth, show them the appreciation of the books. You may not want to buy all of them, but at least showing a little bit of that want and desire to find out more about this story is something that they can all get behind. So that's your single issues. There's a lot of benefits for it. Let's talk about the cons. The cons are, if you do not have this thing that's wrapped around it called the bag and a board, these are very easy to damage. You can look back. I think I got one down here. I've got an old Silver Surfer here. And this is from, let me see if I can find a date on it. I've got no date. 68, October 68. This is Silver Surfer number 2. This is not mine. This was given to me. This is not from my collection, but you can tell that the spine has got some damage. We've got some cat ears on the corners. The pages are yellowing. So this is hard to keep in good shape unless, like I said, you have something like a bag and a board, which is something that a lot of comic book stores are now pushing. And, well, I shouldn't say pushing, but you pretty much get one of these with most of your comics nowadays because people want to protect them because we don't know what the value of some of these are going to be in the future. Because they're so small, because they're so flimsy, they do get damaged, they do get lost. It's a little harder to take care of something like this if you don't protect it with stuff like this. Also, up here, I've got a whole big shelf that I can see all the spines of all my books. So I can quickly skim through it and go, I want to read Spider-Man Torment by Todd McFarlane. I can't really do that with the single issues. The single issues are usually, if not put on a shelf, they're usually put in a long box, which is a big white box, which you just lay them in. and you kind of have to flip through them to get what issue you want. Well, that becomes a pain in the arse if you're not wanting to spend a lot of time flicking through trying to find the book. So you've got a damage issue, you've got a time issue, you've got I will call it a showing off version. There's a lot of things that are a problem with it. So keep that in mind when you're interested in buying when you want to start investing in single issues. Let's jump over to the other side of the fence, and that is your graphic novels. So what are some pros of a graphic novel? Well, graphic novels are a complete story, usually. Again, you can find ones that are compilations of, say, a specific hero or a specific era, but most of the time, I would say they are a complete story. Like I said, for this one is The Blackest Night. This is the big key issues of Blackest Night. Same with this, Spider-Man Torment. This is the Todd McFarlane storyline, one of his first Spider-Man runs. So you have everything you want if you want a specific story all in one book. You don't have to go out and find specific issues, which if you're looking for older stuff can become a giant pain in the butt, because if it's not a key issue, it kind of becomes hard to find some of these odd ones here and there. A lot of stores, like even Big B, which is the biggest one in the area, they used to have a whole basement, which was just, odd issues. They don't have that anymore. It's not worth their time to keep that. So trying to find, an issue 94 or an issue 63, it becomes a little bit more of a pain in the arse. Next, we've got convenience. Like I said, you've got everything all in one book. Everything you want about a story, including sometimes extra artwork. Sometimes there's, a little bit from the artist, from the writer. Having all of it in one book, in one space, is perfect for anybody who wants everything all together. It, like I said, it can be a pain in the butt trying to find 15 different things all in, single issues, especially if it's a long run. Some of these runs can go up to 30, 40 issues, and that just becomes way too much. I think the biggest difference, we'll get into that in a minute, Alex. That's definitely it's definitely a big part of it. Another big thing is artistic cohesion. I really do believe that is a big factor in specifically me reading comics. I used to draw more than I do now. But I really care about the art of a book. I don't think I'm the only one when I say if I open a book and I don't like the art, it's really hard for me to get into it. It really makes me throw it to the side. I'd rather look for something I'd rather read than visually read with my eyes through the art, instead of just struggling through it, reading words and not really paying attention to the art. So you usually have the same team up throughout an entire book. This is Jeff Johns and Ivan Reis. You've got Todd McFarlane for the Spider-Man book. The book is traditionally going to look the same throughout the whole thing. If you grab a random, if you grab, say, an Aquaman 54 and then an Aquaman 55, they might change artists and writers between those two issues. So you could be reading a series and then all of a sudden something changes. And if you're like me, where you just don't like that art or you don't like the way the story's going, that could throw you off completely. So that is another perk of a book, of the trade paperbacks, is having everything pretty similar. Like I said, there are compilations out there that have different art, different stories, etc. But for the most part, they're usually all around the same. Storytelling flexibility. Like I said earlier, there are some books that it's much easier for them to weave an entire large story in a trade paperback than trying to make those certain beats. Because for those who just read and aren't really, you're probably nerds. Some people might not understand. There are beats in a comic. There are moments in a comic which are, the page flip ones that make you want to flip the page. There's usually a tension moment which you want to flip the page and see what happens. Same with the end of a book. There might be the end of an issue and there might be a cliffhanger that makes you want to get to the next book. For some writers and some artists, that's really hard to do issue after issue after issue after issue, because you really have to get that roller coaster type motion. And some stories just don't work with that. Prime example was one I talked about earlier, Mouse, where it's kind of hard to do the story of the World War II Nazi Germany in the Cat and Mouse and have this. Like, it just doesn't work for the medium. So that, I believe, was one that was just a graphic novel. So for some publishers, it works very well. Like I said, with the big 2, big 3, big 4, Marvel, DC, Image, etc., those are they're written that way, they're built that way, so they're able to get that. Every issue has that roller coaster. But some of the independents, some of the newer writers, I'd rather just have a bigger book that tells a complete story. Lastly, I've sort of weaved around this point, but this is the point: the accessibility to new readers. If you're like me, I started reading in the New 52 era. I had read comics back in the day. It wasn't really, I was into it, but I wasn't into it. Once New 52 started, it was a completely blank slate. I was able to start on ground floor and enjoy the stories from the beginning. If you're new to a series and you grab an issue, that one doesn't really work because it's an issue 2. But if you grab, Spider-Man 55, you don't know what's happened. You don't know who may be still in, who may have died, who may still be a love interest, or all these things. It sort of, if you're not planned properly, you could be completely lost on a series, and things that happen later that should have impact won't have impact. If you've ever watched a Marvel movie, if you realize that you didn't watch the 5, 6 before that, and you realize these jokes and references don't make as much impact. Same thing with the comics themselves. If you're randomly thrown into the deep end, you may completely lost. You may enjoy it because of the story and the character, but there will probably come a point where something will be referenced, or you'll wonder, why isn't this a part of it when it used to be, but it isn't? So having everything in one book makes things a lot easier. So which one should you choose? Well, Alex in chat, I think, said it the best. And that is, the biggest difference is if you're a collector or just want to read a story. That is very true. If you want to collect single issues, that is probably, if you're looking for value, this is probably what's going to be worth more later. Graphic novels are more for reading specifically. If you're interested in a story, this is the best way to get that complete story. Prime example, I am a huge Green Lantern fan, and Green Lantern really got me hooked when they did the Blackest Night series and the Brightest Day series. So I am personally trying to get all of the graphic novels, because there are offshoot stories and such for the Blackest Night series. I would love to get them all in hardcover. I know it's not going to happen because it's stupid expensive. But then there's also omnibuses, so I can have the entire Brightest Day series. Gavin said Blue Lantern's better. No. So we've got the Brightest Day omnibus that has a whole bunch of the Brightest Day stuff as well as extra stuff. It's great to have a whole story in one book. And again, I'm not having to flip through a long box or flip across the shelf trying to find a specific issue if I want to read an issue 5 and then 6 and then 7. When I first read comics, it was more of a graphic novel. At my school, when I was in grade school, we had a comic graphic novel section. It wasn't too big. It wasn't really considered reading. The teachers would kind of say, you can get a book, but then this is a book, but it doesn't really count as a book. So this is like an extra book you get. we would read the books that way, and we never really had a lot of single issues. It wasn't till I was probably in my early teens, if not a little earlier, where my mom's boyfriend, who I mentioned on the podcast, really started to get into comics. He was really into that boom of the foil covers and the variant covers in the 90s, and thought that if he collects these will be worth something later. They were never worth anything later. He kind of got swept up in that Superman, Death of Superman boom. So that was when we started going to comic book shops a lot. We had one that was just down the street from us, and we would go in. He would look for all the variant covers. I would be able to search through like the dollar bins or 50-cent bins, and I'd be able to grab a couple issues that way. That was how I started getting into Kiss Psycho Circus, because I was a Kiss fan at the time. Every once in a while, he would throw me a cool one that he knew I had some association with. I don't have it here. It's actually in a box downstairs. The Ultimate Warrior, the wrestler, had a comic back in the day. He bought me issue 1, and I didn't realize it till many years later that it was actually autographed. So I have the Warrior autograph on his comic book. So that was when I really started to get into the single issues. Then once, like I said, the New 52 was when I really got into the modern reading of comics. Gavin in chat and my other buddy Tom, we would all get together, go to the store. We would get so many issues. We'd probably get 5 to 10 a week. Go back to my place, read the issues. The problem we realized, and I definitely realized, was we would get home, I would read all my issues, and then what do I do with them? Right? They go in a box, and I never look at them again. And then again, we would get through the flick, trying to find a specific issue, or I just never read it again. So it was taking up a lot of space. It was taking up a lot of time and a lot of money. So because of that, I stopped getting single issues, and I started going to graphic novels, because I was really able to pick and choose the stories that I wanted, the artists that I like. There are booths at conventions that really good deals on some of these. If you're in Expo Canada, BMV, they're usually in the middle of the South Building. They've got a big giant table. They've usually got long boxes all around the outside. They've usually got a really good deal, like buy 4, get 1 free, and they're like $5 to $10 a piece. And they've got some really cool books. I think last year I picked up Swamp Thing, Final Crisis, Preacher, and Watchmen. And I think I grabbed Jim Kruger and Alex Ross's Justice as a free one. So like good books, good big size books. Highly recommend that. As we talked about in the pre-show, in the next couple weeks will be Anime North. I even buy some graphic novels from Anime North. They sometimes sell art books there, but also pick up some Street Fighter Unlimited. There's some really cool stories going on in that. What I think I'm going to start doing, because these, if you're ever at Anime North, there's I cannot remember the booth, but there is a big booth that has a lot of these on for like almost $2-3 a piece. I've got a good collection started. I don't think I'm going to be keeping them though, because I don't know how much I'm going to read them after I read them the first time. So I might start selling them and making money back so I can buy more and more and more. But yeah, Anime North, great for stuff like that. Crystal in chat says, I do the singles because of the cover art. You know what? I completely agree. There are some incredible cover arts for single issues, and even stuff like this, like the Silver Surfer issue 2. Like, it is such a cool cover. The problem is, though, and I mentioned it earlier. Wow. Let's see if we can focus on that. 25 cents for that. I wish. This is, I just know I'll never see it. Even when my wife and I got together and we started collecting, we've got a couple, odd books. I've got a I've got an in plastic, like hard plastic Spawn #1. We've got an Iron Man #1. It's in crap condition, but we own it. And we just don't have the space for it. When we originally started, we had sort of a cabinet that we sort of placed the key ones on there, but we just had so many key ones that we couldn't do it. We'd be rotating them over and over and over again. The 90s Crystal 90s Catwoman covers, I completely agree. The 90s Catwoman covers are incredible. I wish I had a couple. I might actually look for some of them at Expo this year because they are amazing art. Yeah, I'll only buy certain issues if it's an important one. Like I said, I picked up this one, The Amazing Shutterbug, because Mark Bernardin, the co-host of Fat Man Beyond with Kevin Smith, is the writer. I haven't even read it yet. I picked it up and haven't had a chance to read it yet. I should bring it to work and read it on a lunch break. But yeah, that's the only time I'll really pick up a single issue from now on, is if it's something specific. But it's too much. Like $5 an issue for that. It's just become, price wise, it's priced me out. Especially for wanting to buy a specific series. Like I said, at Expo, when I'm able to buy a graphic novel and I can get something, and even that, I'd rather spend $5 on a graphic novel, not like it, and I can resell a graphic novel if I don't like it. You know, I see on Facebook Marketplace and all over the place, I've seen so many people put up graphic novels for dirt cheap, if not free. If you guys know the series by Brian Azzarello, 100 Bullets, literally a guy down the street from me put on Facebook Marketplace for free almost all 11 graphic novels of the series, and I got to read all through those. But it's a lot easier to get rid of those than trying to get rid of a like I said, an issue 55 of Aquaman or something like that. And I know a lot of people, including my wife, brought this up before I mentioned I was doing this as an episode. It would be remiss of me to not talk about digital. I have some back in the days when I used to torrent like crazy. I do have some series on digital that I have on my iPad. I purchased the Marvel Unlimited subscription back in the day. I liked it. There were some, I wish they had a lot more. I know it was in its infancy, so I didn't have everything. They probably have a lot more now. I personally just don't enjoy it as much. Like, I know there's some people who are book readers who believe, you know, hard cut or physical copies are much better than digital. I completely understand when it comes to comic books. I'm the same way. I feel like it feels different. It feels like I can swipe through too quick. I don't know. It's just an odd feeling for me. So yeah, I need a physical copy. I sadly believe it is going to go digital completely at some point. Kind of similar to the way that art has become mostly a digital medium now. There's not many people doing by hand, except if you're Alex Ross or something like that. Marvel Unlimited sucks for finding issues. Wish they would sort them by month and year. Yeah, even the Silver Surfer I keep bringing up. This is a friend of mine gave me a tote of their comics that they inherited through a family member who passed away. And they said, just take a look. Tell me if there's anything good in there. If it's junk and it's only worth, pennies or whatever, or there's nothing of value, do with it what you will. So I kept a couple issues, but it's I don't know how I got on this tangent. I lost my train of thought there. I kept a couple, but trying to find specific issues month, year it's going to be a pain in the butt. I know there's a lot of subscription services for different things, not just comics, but music, movies, shows, etc., that are just you wonder if the people running it have ever actually participated or enjoyed the medium, because the way they've done it is such backwards. But that's besides the point. So in conclusion, as Alex said too, it really does come down to what you prefer. Do you prefer to collect certain issues, or do you prefer to read the stories? If you prefer to read the stories, then I would highly recommend you pick up graphic novels. Like I said, you can get them in the hardcover version, which lasts a little longer, have a nice slipcover, or you can get the trade paperbacks. They're usually a little cheaper. Let me just check here. I know these came out at different times, but let me see if I can get a price on these. Yeah, they're both the same, so that doesn't that doesn't make any much sense. Stories, but as singles, Crystal said. Yeah, and again, if that's what you dig, be my guest. I'm so glad you support the medium. I try and do when I can, but just for the amount of shelf space I have, I need to put them in graphic novels. And even just looking at what I have right now, like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces about this big, and I'm down to about that much on one. Everything else is full. So there's going to come a time where I'm going to have to trim a little bit, and I've already trimmed. But yeah, that's my suggestion. If you, as long as you read and as long as you enjoy the comics, that's what matters, because they need you need to support these things, because this is what built all the movies and the TV shows and the video games and all that stuff. It's because of these. And if you stop reading these, then they've got nothing to work off of. I mean, they've got decades of history, but you wouldn't have anything new coming out of the medium. So as long as you read, whether it's paperback, even if digital, if you got to do the subscription, you do the subscription. Physical, single, trades, whatever, just read comics, and let's just keep this stuff going, because that's what's most important. Folks, it's been a great night. I'm so glad to be back here. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're still here, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Folks, if you're watching this on Instagram, we're over on YouTube. Myers Corp Cosplay, Monday Night Nerd. This is the show. This is just a weird angle of it. If you watch it there, you see all the things that pop up, all the cool photos from my trip. Folks, next week, I'm not 100% what we're going to do. I have a really, really cool idea in the works. I got to talk to a couple people, see if we can maybe do a couple guests coming up. I definitely want to do one on 3D printing. I got a good friend who I'm hoping she can come on and talk about 3D printing. I know I want to have a conversation with a couple people who are really big into certain genres. They are going to be, hopefully, I want to talk about multiverses. I want to talk about which ones worked, which ones didn't. We're probably going to be doing that after Anime North. Anime North is coming up again in a couple weeks. We're going to talk all about AN. I think that's it for the night, folks. Again, thank you so much. I love all of you for tuning in. It means so much to me that you'd spend your nights watching me on this channel talk about goofy stuff. Love you. I will see you all next week, and hopefully sometime this week I will be hopping on Instagram Live again to be talking about cosplay stuff, because I got a little bit of stuff to get ready for AN this week, a couple weekends from now. Have a good night, folks. Love you all. I'll see you soon. Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerdy fun. See you soon.